Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm back where I belong at Twinkle Khanna's book launch. What do I say about Twinkle? I mean, there's so much I have to say. I don't know why I'm calling her Twinkle, because there is an unusual fact that her real name is Twinkle, but her pet name is Tina. We won't go there because Twinkle is invariably the pet name that people go by, or the ones that exist in this world. I love her, known her ever since I can remember. She's an actor, though she claims she's not. She is gorgeous, though she claims she's not, though I did walk into a room where she was blow-drying her hair and touching up her makeup, and I told her to kind of down the rouge a bit because she'd gotten carried away. It's her book launch, it's her day, why not? She is the most read columnist, which is so fantastic. She's the highest selling female author in this country, and that is no mean feat. More than anything else, she's a compassionate daughter, an absolutely loving mother, an exceptionally understanding wife, and she does it all with a smile on her face and a joke that she will crack at your expense. All of this is true, and I have been at the end of that, and the receiving end of those jokes. One can never have the last word where it comes to her, and maybe one shouldn't, because what the hell? This is Twinkle Khanna. She went back to school after achieving all of this. Who does that? As Chiki Sarkar rightfully said, I wouldn't go back to teaching school and to school. I would go back to school as a student, and I don't think anyone is calling me as a teacher. So let's just give a big round of applause to this Renaissance woman. But it's okay. Some sacrifices are worth it. Shabana ji, you understand. Yes, yes.
So there's a reason why you are at every book launch. You're my lucky mascot. I've almost now become superstitious about it. And I was telling my mom that it's like Ganpati. Every book launch, I put you on this dais, and then I do your Visarjan the next day. And I think when Vidya and I were sitting backstage, I also said that if you pop it, I'm going to have your picture at my 12th or 15th book launch, because that's the amount of faith I have in you.
Just make sure you're wearing the right clothes when that happens, because you will be judged.
Oh my God.
And make sure it doesn't look like the D-Decor Fabric Air couch. I've just done some endorsements.
1 second, Simone is here and she's taken grave offense at this D-Decor fabric.
I'm actually promoting it. I've even done it on my show. But listen, it's an absolute pleasure and honor to interview you because
Chand.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say these things. It's your launch. I have to be nice to you. Conversations with you are like welcome to paradise anyway.
You don't know if you're in hell or you're in heaven, and you just...
That's pretty much sounds like most people's marriages.
That's also true.
But Welcome to Paradise is now touted to be a juggernaut success. It is so different from everything you've done. We'll get to that later. But first things first, something I'm genuinely curious about. You went back to school. What prompted you? What made this happen? What was the experience like?
I think I partly went back to university because I was approaching 50. And I've always said this, that age is definitely a mathematical problem, but it is not a sum of division where you're reduced to what, a fraction of what you were. It could be a multiplication sum if you grow. Now,
I have no understanding of what you just said. Math was not my strong suit, but like, did you just make sense?
Actually, that's a big lie. That's a big lie, because you told me that you were a school topper. It's just that you don't look like any sort of topper. You look like a bottom. But no, sorry. We can't make that joke.
You just made it.
I didn't make it. I stopped.
Go back to the sum of some parts that you were talking about. I don't know what it meant, but anyway.
It meant that you have to keep growing. And at this age, as you're very well aware, the easiest way is to grow horizontally. Yeah. So I'm trying to grow in different ways and not just horizontally.
All right.
Ab aaya samajh mein?
Bilkul aa gaya.
Achha, theek hai.
So iska ye matlab tha ki you wanted to kind of expand your repertoire of knowledge, information, and spread all of that after you're done.
That was even more boring than what I was originally saying.
Okay.
But okay, let's go on.
Yes, sir. But the thing is, what you're not telling us, and what I would share with everyone here, is that you beat the ass out of everyone there. Like, you did so fantastic. You were distinction, superior distinction, whatever they call it. You were the topper. You were the school topper there.
Exceptional distinction is what they say.
Exceptional distinction. Yes, that also happened. But do you feel it enriched you as an author?
No, but I definitely think that you've been casting all the wrong people in Student of the Year. You should have cast me. I am the Student of the Year. And you just keep taking all these random people and making them.
You fit the tag. You are also from the school of nepotism.
Of course.
Very happily, you actually tick so many boxes. And let's not go back to the time when I did try and cast you and was rejected very heartbreakingly. But anyway, you paved the way.
Can we go back to the time when actually you were in love with me because my testosterone was 11 and I thought I was a man. I didn't have a penis, but I've always had the balls and you were in love with me. Can we go back to that bit?
I can see Shabana ji dwindling in her seat into like shock, despair, and horror. And not just that, next to her is a very worried Vidya and an absolutely traumatized Kiara.
No, Kiara is traumatized.
Yes.
I had to change the passage for her this morning because she
Yes,
said, this
because
is
she
very
read-
controversial, I can't read this.
But Kiara's controversial meter is really quite low. I wanted many things shock and surprise her. The book, the 4 chapters and 1 novella. I have to say this. This is exceptional writing. And I'm not just saying it because I'm a friend. It's exceptional writing.
You are saying it because you're my friend.
Yeah, but
also because you based Rocky Rani apparently on my marriage. That's what everyone is saying. I don't know. Is that true?
No.
How much can you leech off me, man?
Yeah, well, it was it was 2 people coming together who come from different schools of thought. That doesn't mean it's your marriage, Tina. And everything is not about you.
It was in the press.
Well, that's
You
okay.
gave an interview. I didn't say these things.
Don't go by what I say. So here's what I'm talking about. There is, of course, you've touched upon so many themes. Thematically, it is dark, of course. It's heartbreaking, very heartbreaking. It deals with death in a way that I haven't really seen. Yet there is so much humor and dark humor laced right through it. I also feel like it's very internal, because you've gone very deeply internal, you've gone back to your childhood. There's a lot of references, or rather inspiration from your Nani, her Islamic side, and Ismaili side, sorry. And there's also a lot of very, very, very wonderfully and deliciously written eccentric women. All of them of a certain age, all of them eccentric, breaking every myth, stereotype of what we read of women of a certain age. All of this in 4 short stories and 1 novella. I mean, it's no mean achievement. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very kind. Thank you.
So we'll go back to the fact that this big diversion, this creative diversion that you took from your last book, about fitting into about the comfortable pajamas, this is a totally different leap that you've taken. And was that also a conscious decision, or is it just part of the evolution of an author?
No, if I'm honest, I think in my last book, I made a lot of compromises. I was under a lot of pressure, internal pressure, external pressure. You're Mrs. Funny Bones, there has to be a joke on every page. My protagonists were originally 60. I had to make them, like 30. So I felt that I had, done a disservice to myself. And then in this book, I was very clear that there are jokes, but only if they service the story. And there are all these amazing women, and I'm fascinated by older women. There is a certain richness and a texture in their stories that younger people, well, most younger people may not have. But the way that the world looks at them, it's like the minute you start putting on a hearing aid, everybody else around you becomes deaf, because that's the way it is. Nobody really wants to hear older people. And I know that you're a big advocate of youth. We have discussed this, that how do you stay relevant? No, really, don't make that face. I'm not saying anything bad. You said it was by immersing yourself, amongst young people, which is why you love, Shania and Anaya and Kiara and Alia, which is great.
She's Ananya.
Okay, Ananya also. Anaya's also. But I think that But I think that every phase is
I
interesting.
don't know why I come year after year.
No,
I
but
don't
it's a
know
good
why-
thing.
I don't know
No,
why I
one second.
bother.
We had a very long conversation. We were talking about some directors which we can't name, and he said that, those are obsolete, they are fossils, and all these awful things about them. And then, and then he said, you have to be relevant, and that's why I hang around with young people. And I said, yeah, I just don't like people, so I can't hang around with young people, so I'll go and study. But that was, because we are fossils now, we are 50, the world that we grew up in doesn't exist. So how do we stay fresh and reinvent ourselves? You've chosen, the fountain of youth, and like a vampire, you suck all the blood of these young people. And I've tried a more sedate approach.
So basically what we've deduced from this is that in conversation is a wannabe young mind, and I'm talking to a prolific evolved mind. Basically that is what our deduction is from this particular answer. And I'm very grateful that I've been invited to kind of ask you questions, and I'll go back with an exceptionally low self-esteem tonight. But that's fine. I've combated trolls. You're nothing.
I'm nothing.
Yeah.
And I love you. And this is all coming from how much I love you.
But before
I love everything about you. I love this Gucci suit.
And you love the sound of your own voice.
No,
One
but
second.
I love you.
I want to kind of special mention to Jaguda. I hope he's in the room here.
He's
Jaguda, we love you. We always have and always will. And Jaguda, I hope you know that you have a special mention in the book. Yes, and there's a beautiful mention in one of the short stories, and we just wanted to say that to you with all our love and all our heart. Please don't. Give all your love to Jackie Shroff, ladies and gentlemen.
So we weren't really sure if Jaguda was coming, because every time I invited him, he responded with a picture of a plant. So I don't know what that meant, but I'm so glad he's here. And yes, he's in the book. He has a cameo. He has a cameo, and which is a really, really great cameo. And then Rakhi Sawant has a small cameo as well. She does.
Well, you just made her day, and we'll hear about it on Instagram. All this, of course, so, is Mrs. Funny Bones planning to make any kind of, besides your columns, that your recent column is a huge hit online, addressing many poignant, relevant topics?
Not really. It was a fallout from your show. That was my last column, because you call people on your show, then you trap them, then they say silly things, and they get into trouble, and then I write a column defending them. It's an old thing. We've done this many times.
Yes. It's all you. You've done it every day. You save you'll cure cancer one day. I know.
Almost.
I know you will. I absolutely know you will. I had a train of thought before I sat on this chair, and it's obviously been derailed because of all the absolute pearls of wisdom that are coming my way. Death is a recurring theme in your shorts and in the book. Death is something that, we all have our own feelings about. Some fear it, some want it, some are completely traumatized by the idea of losing loved ones. They fear the loneliness post that. You've dealt with death in the most intriguing aspect. Is there something about death that fascinates you?
I think it depends on every stage. I'm at a stage where, like a lot of people, our grandparents are gone. One parent is gone. And then you start looking at it, and you know that the time that's left ahead is not the same as what you've already crossed. So that kind of stays in your head. And human beings have this delusion, and that's the only way we survive, that we pretend we're immortal and the people we love are immortal. But when you really face that fact, what do you do? So I have a story in this about a woman who's 86,
yes,
who wants to avail of euthanasia, and how that entire sort of psychological journey,
yes,
takes place.
And what's interesting in that story is that she sends it to a judge, and she tells him also to do the same thing.
Yeah, she sends it to the Chief Justice. Actually,
Yes.
she was going to send it to the President of India, but then we have a lawyer friend sitting there who said, can you not write this and just make it Chief Justice? So I said, okay, fine. There he is at the back saying,
Yeah,
no,
but
no,
you
no, no.
already said what your lawyer told you not to say.
But he's not my lawyer, but yeah, okay.
I don't know, one of us is going to get into trouble at the end of this interaction, and I hope it's not me, because it invariably is. No, so this book, today where it stands and where you're at, you've written this book, you live between two cities, you've educated yourself at this age and stage, you're writing your columns, and now what is the next plan?
Now, I don't know actually. So I say these things and then sometimes they happen. I've been saying I want to study. I used to take Arav to this education counselor and I used to keep saying, I want to go back to university, I want to go back to university. And he teased me and he said, this is the time to look after your children. And I said, listen, that's really misogynistic. I'm going to put it in a column. And then he started laughing. But he did help me get back to university. So I say things and then, they kind of happen. And I think for the last 2-3 years, I've been saying I want to become health minister. So I don't know whether that's going to happen. But I'm just going to keep repeating it again and again. And then maybe, who knows, it may just happen.
Well, you manifest it, it'll happen. It'll happen. All right, that was lovely. I have some quick questions to ask you, which you can give very quick answers to. Hopefully they will be. What do you prefer, Twinkle? Best-selling author or critically acclaimed one with no sales at all?
I want to be Karan Johar with my own show, Coffee with Karan, where I make so much money and I also go to people's birthday parties and they give me a crore for that. I want to be that person.
Are you speaking to my agency by any chance? And are they divulging details that they're not supposed to? And what do you mean? I've been invited to various events to play rapid fire, even at a children's party, not just and I have accepted that invite.
I think that's really good. My husband says that he'll go for anything as well, including mundans.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
no,
that's
we think,
fine.
your husband and I think alike. I've been to a child's birthday party, but the child was, lo and behold, 2 years old. So there was not much of an interaction I really could have had, but I was there. But thematically in your book, and I'm only saying it because of that, this is not a dark question. Death by euthanasia when you think like you're done, or by natural forces?
I think, well, it depends. It depends upon my situation. But yeah, everybody wants to kind of die in their sleep, but it doesn't happen. So then maybe euthanasia when it's all done with, and I know that I don't have much ahead.
All right, and lastly, an eccentric family. You write many characters who are eccentric, or a hum saath saath hai one?
I have an eccentric family that is hum saath saath hai. They never leave me and they're completely batty. I mean, my mother is sitting there and the things that she says to me, I've given her my book and she says, no, I've not read it yet because it's in my temple. I think she's waiting for Shivji to read it and give a review and then she'll read it. I'm not quite sure.
She may not have read your last one either.
She did.
Oh, she read it.
She did, and then she underlined passages and then tried to explain to me what I had originally written.
All right. Well, mothers are allowed to do anything. And then I was going to ask you for some rating before I close this chapter with you. Rate yourself on the following, as out of 10, as a mother.
No, I'm not answering these questions. I'm not on Coffee with Karan. I'm not answering these questions.
By?
I don't want to. I'm not on Coffee with Karan.
But you have to give me an answer. You called me. Now you do what I want you to do.
Okay, I will. You rate. Who do you think is the hottest person? You love these questions. Siddharth Malhotra, Vicky Kaushal, Shah Rukh Khan, Ranveer Singh. These are your favorite questions.
All of us are narcissistic. I'm the hottest person.
I
Now
agree with
answer
you.
this.
In my
Now
world, you are the hottest.
Yeah, so then I'm glad we agree on that. So tell me, rank yourself on 1 to 10. How are you as a mother, according to you?
I rate myself as a person. I'm 6 and I'm trying to become 7 and that's it. That's good enough.
So you cover all bases
left.
in that. As a
Yeah,
daughter,
I'm-
as a wife,
Yeah.
as an author. You're
I'm
a 6 or...
I'm a 6. I'm happy being 6.
Well, consistency is also
Exactly.
a strength to have.
Yeah.
It was an absolute...
Okay, can you now call the readers, please?
It was
They're
an
really
absolute...
troubling
Let me complete. It was an absolute displeasure being in conversation with you. I hope never to repeat this mistake again.
You have to come again.
I also hope your book really sells like hot cakes, which I know it's going to. I hope it's going to top every chart. I say this with my love, with lots of love from the bottom of my heart. I ain't interviewing you again after this.
You have to come back. Unless you pop it, then we have that picture. But don't, yeah. Just wait now, please.
Never known, so I'm going to tell my mother
Can you call
talked
the
about.
readers,
I
please?
will. I'm good.
Okay,
Fine.
thank you.
Would you like to leave? But before that, yes. Give me a hug. All right. I was going to say give it up, but don't. Uh, she doesn't need to hear any more applause. I'm going to call our first reader, possibly the best actor. I mean, an institution and beyond. I mean, you don't actually need to go to an institution to learn about acting. Just watch her movies. Please welcome none other than someone I've recently had the pleasure to work with, Shabana Azmi.
Okay, so I have the pleasure of being the first reader today, and it's a gem, like all things Twinkle writes. In one corner of Huma's living room, uncles, aunts, cousins are debating over what to do with Amma's body. This is not a traditional approach, but her religious legacy is not what they consider regular either. Amma was born into an Ismaili Muslim family. Huma's father, who loved his sweet dal and his puja mom with silver idols that he polished every week, agreed to a conversion ceremony to placate Amma's parents. He was a funny man, her father. On Tuesdays, he would go to the temple, and on Fridays, he accompanied Amma to the Jamaat Khana. To the people who questioned his all-encompassing belief, he said, religion is like a tree. It doesn't matter which side you choose to sleep under, they all provide shade. Huma remembers asking him, Daddy, tell the truth. You copied this tree bit from your Osho book, right? Like me, my dialogues are also original. He had replied in Gujarati. When he passed away, he was cremated at the Shivaji Park cemetery, just as he had wished, and without any of the fuss accompanying her mother's funeral. In the noisy living room, the extended family has divided itself into two factions. Team Crematorium, led by Padma Ben, Huma's father's sister, claims that like Huma's father, Amma must also be cremated. Team Cemetery includes the relatives from Amma's side. They argue that since she has spent her entire life following this smiley faith, she should be buried. Murad, Amma's geriatric nephew, is holding court. He had once locked up his mother in a flat because she would not sign some legal documents. Each day, he would lower a basket with lunch and dinner from his apartment to his mother's bedroom window, a floor below. When Huma heard about this incident, she told Amma, "This is terrible on Murad's part. He could have at least sent her breakfast too." Amma had looked at Huma with a blank expression on her face before letting out a guttural laugh. "Good joke, Huma," she recalls her mother saying. People don't remember commonplace things. They remember first times and rare occasions. Amma's compliments were seldom tossed in Huma's direction. She watches them bicker, Padma Ben and Murad. Burn, bury. Burn, bury. Two words that differ by a single letter. She looks at her brother sitting beside Amma's body, ignoring the cacophony. She forgot about the dupatta. Sara, does that girl ever listen? Huma gets back on her feet and goes to her room. Sara and Saurabh are playing a game on Huma's iPad. "Sara, what is wrong with you? I asked you to get that dupatta." "The cupboard is locked," her daughter says. "What am I supposed to do? Break it down." Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shabana ji. Thank you so very much for doing that. Thank you. Our next reader has broken every stereotype, every myth, led at the box office like no one else on her own might, emerged as one of our finest actors, and continues to score on every platform. Digitally and on celluloid, she's just an absolute delight and a pleasure to watch. I'm a big fan. Please welcome Vidya Balan.
Akshay, thank you. Hi, everyone, and congratulations, Twinkle. I've enjoyed the bits that I've read. I haven't read the entire book, but I can't wait to read the rest. After Pippi got married, there was a period of 20-odd years when they didn't see each other. She met him again at her Aunt Kusum's funeral, a somber occasion shadowed by the aftermath of the emergency and Indira Gandhi's recent electoral defeat. Her father would have been devastated. Nehru had been his idol. Her father had bought their first radio when a neighbor had told him that Nehru's speech as the first Prime Minister of India would be broadcast live close to midnight on the 14th of August. Funny tricks her mind played these days. It wandered like a dog let off the leash, sniffing out and chewing on whatever it found. Desiccated corn cobs and dead birds. Nehru, Pippi, her father, Indira. Like her, Pippi had come to offer condolences. They were both in their 40s by then. There was a softness to the edge of his chin, the line of his shoulders. He looked prosperous and content as he stood amidst a group of men, all in white kurtas. He looked in her direction, distantly at first, and then his eyes steadied as he recognized her. It was a hushed conversation, Pippi keeping his voice down like the others in the room. Questions, the kind you ask acquaintances about jobs and relatives. Then he asked if she still lived on Tilak Road. She told him that after her father had passed away, she had taken a teaching job at a boarding school in Panchgani. She would be in Bombay for the summer break and then would return to Panchgani. He said work brought him to Bombay often and asked if he could come and have tea with her the following Tuesday. He arrived 2 hours late, with the air of conviviality that he always carried with him. The train had been delayed, he said, offering her a newspaper-wrapped package as an apology. It was the first time he brought her vada pav from the station, a tradition that would last for over 4 decades. Madhura never told him that she didn't like pav. She had just a few pictures of them together. People usually took photographs on their holidays, but they'd never been on one. It had largely been the two of them, spending time at her flat and occasionally going for long drives and to the race course. Perhaps she wasn't as comfortable as Pippi about lying to people about their relationship, or she'd simply been content. But over the years, Madhura slowly cut herself off from neighbors and friends. Her life had revolved around her students and classes, and during the holidays, Pippi. When she retired from teaching, it had only been Pippi. Her fingers were twitching again, as if she were trying to fan herself with the Polaroid she had picked up from the bed. It had been taken on her 50th birthday. Her hair was in a bun, with a rose tucked incongruously behind her ear. Pippi, with his characteristic smile that didn't curve at the ends, but lit up his face in a horizontal line, sat opposite her, his grey hair pushed away from his broad forehead. Even by Pippi's standard, it was an extravagant meal at Sea Rock Hotel's revolving restaurant. The restaurant rotated on a conveyor belt, a carousel where tables and chairs laden with Chinese dishes replaced rocking horses. They timed it, Pippi and her. The restaurant took exactly 36 minutes to complete a circuit. Madhura was used to roadside eateries where food was placed on large steel plates and napkins were a rarity. She only ordered one dish, vegetable spring rolls, partly because the rotating motion of the restaurant made her stomach feel queasy, and also because of the extravagant prices printed on the menu. She felt out of place in her plain sari and Kolhapuri sandals, sitting beside the wealthy and famous in their printed chiffons. When she told Pippi this, he plucked a rose from the bud vase on their table. He broke the stem and tucked the flower into her hair. He told her she looked like the famous Doordarshan newsreader, Salma Sultan. Among the waiters carrying platters of chicken Manchurian and American chop suey, a photographer with a Polaroid camera stopped at tables and offered to take pictures of the guests. Pippi called out to him. "Take a nice picture of us," he said. And then in a louder voice, as if he thought he owed the man an explanation, as well as anyone else watching them, he added, "It's my cousin's birthday." He told her that the first revolving restaurant was not This one in Bombay, as the newspapers claimed, but in his Surat. However, the food is better here, he added. Madhura wondered if he had gone there with his wife, if he had tucked roses into her hair too. In the beginning, there had been guilt and even a sense of shame about his marital status. She didn't know if it had disappeared over time or she had just blocked it out. She once asked Pippi if anyone questioned him about their relationship. He hesitated at first and then said, my son brought it up. Now don't feel bad, but I had to say these things. I just told him that Madhura Ben is related to us and she's all by herself. I go to meet her because I feel bad for her. Though she knew Pippi would deny it, she felt that his decision to sometimes bring Raju to Bombay was more than about exposing him to a wider world beyond Surat, as he claimed. It was also calculated to deflect any suspicions his family, especially his wife Malti, may have had. Pippi rarely mentioned his wife or spoke about his life in Surat. In a way, living in two different cities made it easier, not just for Pippi, but for her as well. She could pretend that when he left her flat, he simply disappeared into the ether. Sea Rock Hotel was gone. It never recovered from the terrorist blasts of 1993. It stood there, an empty shell, shattered glass panes facing the sea, the facade crumbling away until it was razed to the ground 2 decades later. Thank you.
Thank you, Vidya. Thank you very, very much. And our last reader literally is the blockbuster girl today. From displaying her acting chops on every platform, digitally or on celluloid, to making the most perfect, beautiful celluloid face on screen as well as a bride. She made her husband wait, but she was here on time. Please welcome the gorgeous Kiara Advani.
Good evening, everyone. Twinkle, congratulations, and thank you for inviting me to read at your book launch. I must say that I admire your writing style, and I'm very glad that I'll be reading a few pages of a very, very beautiful chapter. So without further ado, in the author's words, unlike the rest of the family, Afshan never displayed overt sympathy, nor did she allow Nusrat to be forgotten in the room. Treating her as she had during their childhood, the elder sister playfully drummed her scalp while oiling her hair, tickled her while chopping vegetables. When Amma scolded her, she brushed it off with, I just want to hear that funny laugh Nusrat has. You know how she sounds? Like some old woman with a phlegmy cough? Then she would hunch her back and produce a strange gurgling sound, making Muni, Amma, and Afshan laugh. Amma had planted marigolds near the window to deter mosquitoes. Through the day, just as the marigolds reached the sun, Nusrat found herself drawn to her elder sister. She was warmed by Afshan's relentless cheer and meaningless prattle. In the months following Sabu's death, Nusrat had struggled to distinguish between reality and her imagination. She had seen signs everywhere. If a crow came to the window, then it was Sabu coming to talk to her. When birds flew in a pattern across the sky, it was a signal from him. A branch moving was him waving. The Bombay flat had been filled with his presence. He was ringing the doorbell, he was behind the door in the kitchen, he was hiding in the bathroom. When she tried to speak, it felt like there was a pebble lodged in her throat. She had to navigate around the obstruction, push against it repeatedly in order to get a word out. When she did, her voice emerged raspy. A feeble sound struggling to be heard. It was easier to stay silent. Afshan arranged an appointment with a specialist in Bombay. The doctor conducted a thorough examination and diagnosed strained and tight vocal cords. We must free that throat, he explained, touching her neck, and her chest. He added as his fingers slid lower than required. Nusrat was given vocal exercises to stretch her throat muscles, and she managed to produce a few feeble sounds. I have heard of a patient in Calcutta who could not speak, and after 5 years, she coughed so violently that she vomited. And out it came, a button that had lodged behind her vocal cords. The doctor laughed and added, "But there is nothing in your throat, I can assure you. I would just tell you, push your shoulders back and massage your throat daily. We need to open up the space there. And yes, hum. Practice humming every day. You know Suraya? She came to see me during the time she was working in Mirza Ghalib. You have seen that one, yes?" Her voice felt restricted and had lost power. I gave her the same advice, and look how she sang in that movie. Superb, superb, simply superb. Afshan, relieved that his sister did not have a permanent physical ailment, was even more determined to break down her silence. Every morning, the radio's crochet cover was flung aside, and the sisters would hum together. As Nusrat attempted to form words, Amma and Afshan would sing along with the songs on Radio Ceylon's Aap Hi Ke Geet program. When a song by Suraya would play on the radio, Afshan would sing even louder in her usual tone-deaf way, and then end with an imitation of Dr. Chandra Ramani saying, "Superb, superb, simply superb." Thank you.
Thank you, Kiara. Thank you so, so much. Thank you to all the three wonderful ladies who read chapters out of this absolutely special book. I'd like to call Twinkle back on stage, please. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the time of evening where we put her on the spot. We have questions from the house. We're happy to take them. We'd appreciate it if they were related to her and her book.
Okay, thank you for
Yes,
that. Yes.
just a disclaimer before. Yes.
Okay.
Separating yourself from being a mother and finding your own identity.
My daughter's here, and I think most of this book I wrote at 4:35 in the morning in the dark when she was sleeping next to me. And there is a line in the book where Homa looks at her daughter and says that her daughter, she doesn't know if her daughter is beautiful or not, but when she looks at her, she feels the same way when she looks at majestic objects like Taj Mahal and, you know, the Golden Temple. And I think I felt like that about my child. So the one thing I can say about being a mother is the fact that you have to really carve out that time and protect that time, because children invariably look at, when you're working, they will come to you, and another place when they want you is when you're in the bathroom. So these two places, whenever they see that you're at your desk or the bathroom, they keep calling out to you. So I think sometimes you feel that you're being a little selfish, but then if you do accomplish something, then you're also setting yourself up as a role model for these young girls, and hopefully you feel a little less guilty like that. That's all I can say.
Thank you. Thank you.
Who else? Yes. Yes, sir. The mic's just coming to you.
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible? Yeah. Hi. My name is Amandeep and I'm a writer. So as a writer to the another writer, I wanted to ask, we all tend to hide a lot of our secrets in the things that we write. So is there any secret that you've hidden in this book which you might not have talked about to anyone?
And so you think I'm going to tell you now? I mean...
Maybe where it is so that we can try deducing it.
I mean, definitely your stories will have the truth. But the truth, I would say, in a very simple analogy, is like a potato. You can make aloo jeera, you can make French fries, but the chemical composition of that truth does not change. So is the truth present in my stories? Yes. Will you be able to recognize it? No. And I'm not going to tell you which parts are true, obviously. Otherwise, I would have written a memoir. And my mother would have killed me. That's, you know, another reason.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Farah.
Farah has a question.
Mic coming right up.
So, Tina, you and I have been childhood friends, and I've known you right from the time we were tiny tots. The question to you is, I never thought you would be a writer because you never had any kind of, you never showed any of those things of wanting to be a writer. I knew that you were going to be in the movies, but what made you get into writing? Because you know, to switch from films to writing and become a successful author and make a name for yourself. You're an inspiration to lots of people. So tell us about why you switched to being a writer.
Farah, if I'm honest, my first ambition was to grow up and be Farah. So that was what I wanted to be. I ran away once to Delhi because Farah was in Delhi. And I don't know if that's a good thing or not that I didn't achieve that ambition. So I didn't turn into Farah.
I'm glad you did.
I was
So
always
would
a
have been
reader,
too
but I
many.
never wanted to become a writer. I wanted to become a chartered accountant, you know. So I wanted to be basically Bimal Parekh and have glasses and look at numbers. But life took me in a different direction. I was always a reader, and I'd written half a book when I was about 18, 19. And my mother is here, so when she has some floppy disk of this book. And when I tell her now that, Mom, why didn't you encourage me? When I would show her my work, she'd say, but you're missing dance classes, or go and thread your mustache, or, you know, things like this. But now when I tell her this, she's saying, it's the right thing because you could be an actress at that age, and if suppose you were successful then what you would be doing now. So basically, she tried to make me feel better by saying that I set you up for failure so that now you're doing well.
And your own talent as an actor has nothing to do with it.
You know, I've started doing this skit as Pinky Masi, and actually I'm doing quite well. So maybe if you give me any parts of like an old woman, I can do that well.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't play all these hot, young, happening things, even when I was young, hot, and happening.
Yes, we've seen. Yes. Yes.
Hi, my name is Jane.
Hi, Jane.
Hi. I had an interesting question. So, your book begins with a reference to your nani. So typically, they start their books with the names of their spouses or something on that regard. So what is the reference to your nani in this book? And I think you mentioned it even later that it's an ode to your grandmother. So why is that so with this particular book?
So the dedication to my Nani basically says that, Nani, you can't read this book. Nani can't read this book because she's dead and she may not have bothered to if she were alive. And it was going to end there, but then my family took great offense, so I had to write another line saying, we miss you. This was all because of them. So they made me write this we miss you part so I don't sound callous. Jelly Sweets, the last story, is basically the story that my grandmother told me about my great-grandmother who lost her son and she got divorced. And this is like back in the day when it was, you know, a big scandal. And then she found redemption because she found this neighbor, she got married to him, and then she had a dozen children, and so sort of happily ever after. And I kept, and you know, I'd taken notes when my grandmother would speak about all her experiences, her days in Saath Party, how she grew up. And when I was writing this book, I thought that it was very important that I put this there because I feel like I'm the last one who remembers, and after me, there'll be no one left. And that's why I think I wrote this book and I have this in it.
Right, thank you.
We have time for 2 questions, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, yes, ma'am.
So, Welcome to Paradise is your 4th book. So I just want to know, what is that one ritual that you have followed throughout the story? Writing ritual.
Writing ritual. I wake up very early, I have lots of coffee, and I can write till about 11 o'clock, and then my neurons go on strike because I don't give them enough carbohydrates. That's the truth. So that's my ritual. I can't really write after 11 a.m.
There's one gentleman there that wanted to ask. Yes.
Hello, ma'am. Hello, sir. My name is Yahya. I'm a writer.
Please ask him a question.
No, I don't want to answer any questions, please.
Ma'am, I'd just like to ask you this one question. So the overall theme, there is death as an overall theme goes along there. And whenever we talk about that, it brings a certain intensity or weight to the story. So how do you manage that it doesn't change or affect the theme of your overall story? So if you could answer that, thank you.
No, people think that death is very tragic, but as human beings, our capacity to grieve and suffer is limited. So even if you go to a funeral, after some time, you'll start seeing people trying to make jokes. I went to a funeral once where there was a music composer who started composing his song and telling people to come and listen to it. And he's a very bad music composer, so it was even worse. People who were not grieving started grieving. But so I think that if you look at life carefully, we think that these are very serious things, but everybody has to die. And we all have to grieve, and it's part of life, joy and grief. So you just take it in your stride and you take it in your stories in the same way, you balance it.
Wonderful. But the last question here to the lady in blue. Yeah, aage, please. Though we can hear you.
There's another lady in blue also.
Shall I? Hi, Tina.
Oh, sorry. We're just going to finish with that. Now that you stood up, go ahead. We'll come right back.
So, Tina, first, I've read all your books, yeah? Well, I'm almost through with this one. And I've actually, I mean, we've spoken a lot about, you know, when you were starting to write your first book and so on. And so if you really evolved as a writer, and you've gone from funny to deep to even like bordering on the dark, and I think this one, which I'm reading currently. So where do you see yourself going from here? What's next? What's next for you?
Why am I starting to feel like I'm some iPhone that you now, you know, iPhone version 13 and then your iPhone version 14? I don't know. I'll just keep going down this path. I'm curious about the world. I'm curious about how things work. My husband keeps telling me, why do you keep asking why about everything? But that's my nature. And I guess till I don't answer all these questions, I'll keep writing.
As you must. Thank you, ma'am. And the last question here.
So I just want to ask you, I'm very curious to know, how did you develop such a sharp and amazing sense of humor? And for aspiring writers, do you have any tips on how we can develop this wit?
You have to hang out with Karan. He's my guru, and then everything comes easily. Yeah. He's the master of wit. He's actually much funnier than I am. He's spontaneous. And yeah, I admire him. I look up to him. I copy everything he does. And see, he was wearing grey, so I wore grey.
On that note, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and give it up to Twinkle. Literally her return to paradise, because for every author, paradise is home, and we're glad to have another book that's going to hit all the charts. You are immensely talented, my love, and I hope that you grow from strength to strength, and may the force of creation always be with you. All right. We would like to request the three wonderful and illustrious ladies to join us for a photo op. We would also like to invite Mom.
Mobile नीचे रखो.